Well, YouTube, it's been a minute, hasn't it? I'm sorry that I let you hanging. It's been a little while since I put up some new content. And as you could probably tell, I've been busy. But I was thinking here, just reflecting on the amazing year I've had in Guatemala. That's why I'm wearing this shirt today. Just wanted to tell you, Guats Up. I thought this was a funny shirt when I bought it in one of those souvenir tour shops, probably in Antigua. Probably bought it over a year ago, and I was just reflecting though on the impact that the trip to Guatemala had on me. And it wasn't just a trip, right? I lived there for a year, and it was really amazing. A lot of people go there to learn Spanish. People go there to travel, to see lots of cool things. Some people go there on mission trips, things like that. I went there for something a little bit different. I went there to teach. I had a great opportunity to be a visiting professor at the Universidad Francisco Marroquin, located right there in Guatemala City, the capital city of Guatemala, which, as we know, is the largest city in Central America. Now, you don't count Mexico as Central America. That's part of North America, a much bigger country, definitely much bigger capital. But Guatemala City, the largest city in Central America, and I'll tell you what, it was awesome living there. I lived in Zone 10. I lived in two different places during my time there, but for the most part, I lived in a really cool house with, a few amazing guys there, including my friend Pierre, who runs the house. And the house was actually located really closely to the university, UFM. I taught 3 semesters at UFM, classes on entrepreneurship and innovation, and it was such a rewarding experience. The students were great. And by the way, I'm not fluent in Spanish. I know some Spanish, and my Spanish definitely improved while I was there. Un poquito. But the students are all fluent in English, which is really great. Now, some of them don't think their English is perfect, but let me tell you, it is great. And as I told the students, this was really, to be honest with you, my first time teaching in a formal setting like that. There's different ways that we can teach people. I've got a podcast I've had for the last 7 years, and I do try to use some of what I learned there to teach people entrepreneurship on the podcast and in different forums. But this was really a wonderful opportunity that UFM gave me. They're an experimental institution in many ways. They're high academic rigor. It's the best university in all of Guatemala. It's not the easiest one to get into. In fact, it's the hardest one to get into. It's also maybe the most expensive one, but they do have some scholarships for those who need that. And I met so many amazing students, so many amazing professors, just people connected with the university. Also, as I told the people at UFM, anytime I went around Guatemala, if I was in an Uber, if I was in a cigar lounge, wherever I was, if I told somebody that I was a visiting professor at UFM, like the respect level went up. So that was really cool. And but really, as I told the students, especially at the end of my first semester teaching, I said, you know who the biggest student in this class was? It was the guy up here. I learned so much, the teacher became the student. And actually, these students really taught me a lot in the types of questions that they asked about entrepreneurship and innovation, and the feedback they gave. And some of the students I've had in some of my classes were entrepreneurs already themselves. So they would tell me some of their experiences, whether it was running restaurants or food trucks or all sorts of other things. And that was really the formative experience for me, was teaching, and hopefully it was formative for my students as well. But while I was there, I also had a desk at the university in the Henry Hazlitt Center. And what was really cool is they have great Wi-Fi on campus there. They have great resources everywhere. And one of the main reasons I moved to Guatemala was I was looking for a place that was less expensive to live, where I could start up an online business. And I was successful doing that. And that's really thanks to the great folks at UFM. I really want to give, shout out to my friend Pablo there that works at UFM, because he was the one that really made it happen and orchestrated and made calls and really did a lot of great stuff for me. So I really will always be grateful to him, and really for the whole institution and everybody there that just welcomed me. But I got to sit there at a desk, and I only taught 1 class each semester. So while I had time that I used to prepare for the class and grade papers and all these sorts of things and interact with the students and teach the class, I had a lot of other time throughout the week to build this community. I was on the phones, I was on Zoom calls, trying to get some folks involved with our community, both as featured innovators and later as members. and also just running all the sessions. We have online group coaching sessions every month, a book club, all that stuff. So that was what I used a lot of my time doing. But also, while you're going to be living in a new country, in a new city, you're going to experience every day is a new day, just experiencing, walking around the city, going to the stores, eating the food, meeting the people. But also, of course, like any traveler, I wanted to see the sights. And oh boy, does Guatemala have some sights. This is a country that every time I dig deeper, I find more. There's obviously Guatemala City, which I mentioned. A lot of people don't go to the capital city. There's so much there. And obviously you have the big Plaza Mayor, right in the center of the city. But there's lots of parks, there's museums, there's great restaurants, great cigar lounges, right? Spent a lot of time at the Coranto Cigar Club with my friend Alex Buitron. As you might have saw, I interviewed him on episode 102 of the Agents of Innovation podcast. I just really got to know a lot of people in Guatemala, but traveling around the country, obviously I spent a lot of time in Antigua, Guatemala. This is an old city that is, just full of so much color. There's volcanoes nearby. There's one that's right there that's not active anymore, but it destroyed the city in the late 1700s, and the city went into ruins. And the Spanish, who were, the colonizers at the time, they moved the capital from Antigua to Guatemala City, back in the late 1700s, and just abandoned the city. So you have all these cool old ruins and all these buildings that were then later renovated, homes, structures. So it's just like the coolest city, and it's small and it's walkable and it's totally safe. Being my cigar aficionado habits, I spent a lot of time at the Antigua cigars with my friends Lynn and Uwe. They were awesome to hang out with. They're a Canadian couple. I think they're just emblematic of the kind of people that moved to Antigua. They're a Canadian couple in their 60s, maybe early 70s, I think. And they moved from Canada. Uwe, he's actually from Germany originally. I think when he was in his 20s, he moved to Canada. He later met Lynn. They got married. About 17 years ago, they moved to Central America. They ended up living in Antigua, and they opened a cigar lounge there, many years ago. And it's just this little small place. You got a couch kind of like this, and a couple chairs and a humidor, and it just feels like I just walked into a living room. And every time I sit there and I just having cigars with them or some of the local members or maybe a traveler that's passing through, it's just like a time warp. It's just an amazing, heartwarming time with them all the time. And those are some of the memories I'll carry with me from Antigua. But also so much food in Antigua. I ate at Belgian restaurants like Como Como, French restaurants, Italian restaurants, Mexican restaurants. I mean, go down the list. It's like, it is such a cosmopolitan city because people come there from everywhere. A lot of Canadians and people from the United States and also Europeans come there. So you just get a melting pot of people in this little place that you can walk around. One of the places I'll never forget going is Cayoba Farms, which is on the outskirts of the city. It's not really the outskirts. You can walk there. It's just kind of on the outside of the perimeter, if you will, of Antigua. And it's a farm to table restaurant, and the farm's right there in the back of the restaurant. And I got to know Alex, the owner, from Cayoba Farms, and Alex Kronick, I should say, and had him on the Agents of Innovation podcast. I believe it was episode 105. And that was just such an awesome experience getting to know him, getting to go to a really cool place like that in like this outdoor setting, like you're sitting in this like garden, and the farm behind you, like 70 to 80% of stuff on the menu came from the farms that he has. So that was really cool. And then, you go down the street to Fernando's Cafe. It's a chocolate and coffee shop. And you could sit there and talk to Fernando if you want. He'll come over there and talk to you. Not only did I talk to him a couple times, I said, Fernando, I need to have you on my podcast. He was on, I believe, episode 106. And so he told me all his perspective on coffee and chocolate. And I just learned so much. Just, that's a great thing when you travel. You don't just see the sights. You want to talk to the people. As my friend Andrew Bovolsky once told me, you talk to the people, you eat their food, and you drink their beer, right? Speaking of drinking their beer, I drink a lot of Antigua Cerveza. Well, not too much. Probably a little bit more Zacapa. That Zacapa rum, the best rum in the world. I'm more of a bourbon guy these days, but I'll tell you, Zacapa got me back into the rum. It's really, really great. It just warms my heart thinking of Zacapa rum. So not to go down that path too much, but go further and deeper into Guatemala. Then we get to Lake Atitlan, the most beautiful lake in the world, that some say. Now, I've never been to Lake Como in Italy and Switzerland, and I've never been to Lake Tahoe out in Nevada and California. Those two lakes plus Lake Atitlan are all compared to each other in different ways. Now, I went to Lake Atitlan like 6 or 7 times during my time in Guatemala. I brought 2 groups of my Fearless Journeys company. I brought 2 group trips there, but I also went there with another group. I brought some other friends there, so I was there at least 6 or 7 different times. I've done so many amazing things around Lake Atitlan. I visited different villages. We stayed at Hotel Atitlan, this really beautiful resort. I actually went kayaking, right there in the morning. It's just when the water is totally flat. The water is totally flat in the morning there. But right about noon, it gets choppy. And you take these boats across the lake, and you end up in these little villages. And in those villages, you get to meet. Each village is a little bit different. In San Juan, La Laguna, you could go to a textile shop. We take a group to the textile shop that's owned by, well, it's not owned, but run by really this woman, Delfina, who gives us a really cool demonstration of weaving. And then there's a wonderful gift shop of beautiful products there that took an indigenous woman 2 weeks to make, a tablecloth, and you can buy it for something that's really not too pricey, and then you get to help support them as well in their co-op. Also, we went to San Marcos. San Marcos is, some locals there like to call it California. I should say locals in other villages, because it's all these infiltration of, people mostly from the U.S. It draws kind of a lot of hippie-ish vibe. There's a lot of yoga retreats there. But you can jump off a cliff there. Well, kind of. You jump off this thing called the trampoline. It's not an actual trampoline. It's just a jump off point. I think it's about 35 feet. And I've done it a few times. Every time there's a Fearless Journeys group trip, I got to do it because I'm the fearless leader. And that's about the most fearless thing I'm going to do. But we also, eat some great food there. Just walk around the little village. Of course, when you're in those villages, you take these little tuk-tuks, all right? And they're these little vehicles that are kind of like miniature cabs. It's really tiny to get around. It's kind of like a bicycle with seats and a cover, if they can think about it that way, but with like a motorbike. And those tuk-tuks are so much fun to go around, and they're super cheap, and they're really the only way to get around, because it's hard to drive cars around there. And speaking of driving cars, you don't really drive cars between the villages, because most of the villages are not connected by roads, only by boat through the lake. And I went, like I told you, I haven't been to Lake Como, and I haven't been to Lake Tahoe, but my friend Kevin Comer came on our trip in April of this past year, 2022, and on one of his, I think it was his second day at Lake Atitlan, we're sitting up there at Casa Palopo, a beautiful restaurant near the village of Santa Catarina, Palopo, and the sun was starting to set, and he looked at me and he said, "Francisco, I spent a month at Lake Como a few years back," and he said, "This is more beautiful than anything at Lake Como." And I was like, whoa, so, and if you don't believe me, I recorded it. He really did say that. I recorded it, and I said, "Can you say that again?" So anyway, Lake Atitlan's just beautiful, right? And it's great because it's surrounded by all these volcanoes, and the water is just so beautiful. You got to go there. If you've never been to Lake Atitlan, put it on the bucket list. Maybe come join us on our Fearless Journeys group trip in December. Well, venturing further into Guatemala, last August, I went to one of the most amazing places I've ever been. And I went with my friend Micah, and we went to Tikal. Tikal is these ancient Mayan ruins. The structures there go back about 2,000 years, some maybe longer. It was just excavated, in the last 40 or 50 years. That's how recent the Spanish never even discovered it when they were in the Guatemala Central American region. They never did it. Hernando Cortez went right by it. And you know why he didn't discover it? Because it was all covered up with grass for hundreds and hundreds of years. So you actually see these hills. Some of them are still covered because some of them haven't been excavated. But the ones that are just magnificent. And the number one thing we did there, I'll never forget, and I totally recommend you taking a trip there and doing this. You got to see Tikal at sunrise. And to see it at sunrise means you need to get up about 3:30 in the morning. We stayed at the Jungle Lodge. They knocked on our door, and when they did that, you know, we had about a half hour to meet them in the lobby. They gave us a cup of coffee. I think I grabbed a granola bar, and we walked through the Tikal National Park in pitch black darkness. And it was actually lightly raining when we started, but about 20 minutes in, it stopped raining. We then go to the Grand Plaza. We didn't even see anything. It's literally pitch black dark, and the guy told us, turn off all your phones, and then he flashed a light. I mean, just 10 feet in front of us. I think it was the main pyramid there. I think it's the Jaguar Pyramid right there. It was like boom, and we would later go see that in the light later in the day. But what he took us to was Temple 4. We climbed up like 200 and something steps up, and this is actually where this temple is where the original Star Wars movie, like the first one ever released, which I think is like technically Episode 4. The opening scenes from that Star Wars movie are actually shot from right there, Temple 4. But it was pitch black dark when we got up there. And then the light slowly started to come up. And as it did, the clouds, remember I told you it was raining a little earlier, the clouds lifted just magically up. And we could hear the howler monkeys. I mean, just this iconic sound that I'll never forget. And I'm not going to repeat because I won't do it justice. While the light was coming, and then we just saw the sunrise over Tikal. And as you see it, you see all these pyramids just popping up out of the trees that you didn't see because it was dark. And oh my gosh, it is mind-blowing how large Tikal is. It is just huge. So we spent most of the rest of the morning, because remember, it was still pretty early once we saw the sunrise. We were coming off that pyramid about 6:30 in the morning. The guide took us around an hour and a half. We grabbed a breakfast back at the lodge. And then we, you know, went back out there and just discovered it for ourselves. And it's like you have the whole place to yourselves. As I told my friend Micah at the time, I hate to say this, but you know, I always compare everything to Disney because Disney's like this big theme park, and I grew up in Florida. And I said, you know, this is like the Disney World of Mayan ruins. You know, I mean, this is the greatest collection of pyramids that have been excavated, of Mayan pyramids in the world, and it's just amazing. And to be able to see it at the sunrise, to see that just come alive, it was the best sunrise I've ever had in my life. Going deeper into Guatemala, I think it was in October, I went to Quetzaltenango in the western side of the country. Quetzaltenango is the Spanish name. The native name, I guess you could say the Mayan name of that city is called Xela. And so, you know, some people use the word Xela for short, and some people just say Quetzaltenango. So I went there because my friend Rosemary had a baby a few months earlier, and I had not seen her or her new baby, Santiago. Hello, Santiago, if you're listening. And so I think Santiago was about 2 months old when I went out there in October. And, you know, I was just content of going across the country to see Rosemary. I hadn't seen her in a little while, and to spend some time with her and her son, Santiago. But, you know, Rosemary knew, and I really thank her for this, because she knew that when somebody has a newborn that's only like 2 months old, they're not going to be able to spend a lot of time with you, right? And so I actually got like an Airbnb for like $20 a night, and it was pretty nice. It was right in the center of the city. I mean, it wasn't like super nice, but it was like doable. Like there wasn't really anything to complain about. It was perfect for like a single person or a couple. And again, it was like $18, $20 a night. It was really crazy. I think I stayed there for like 3 or 4 nights. Anyway, she set me up with a couple of her friends to show me around Xela and Quetzaltenango, and I have not released that content yet. So that content will be coming in some future videos. Be on the lookout. So I'm really thankful to Rosemary and her friends. And so you'll meet them soon in one of my upcoming YouTube videos. I mean, Quetzaltenango is a super cool city. It's kind of like somewhere in between Antigua and Guatemala, but it's not in between. It's in the far west part of the country. But I mean in between in terms of the Guatemala City is a huge city. Antigua is kind of a smaller, cool city with like a lot of ruins. Think of something in between that. Something that's got some ruins, and it's a bigger city than Antigua, but not quite as big as Guatemala City. And for anybody that might think some parts of Guatemala City are dangerous, there is nothing to fear in Quetzaltenango. I mean, I felt very safe. I even walked around by myself at night a little bit because I didn't have that far to go. And it was very lively. I also happened to be there during Halloween weekend, actually. So it was very lively, and that was a cool spot to go. And I definitely go back. The only challenge with it is it's all the way on the other side of the country, so it's probably a 5-hour drive and maybe shuttle. from Guatemala City, maybe 4 from Antigua, something like that. And it's definitely more to the west of Lake Atitlan. Speaking of not too far from Lake Atitlan, maybe an hour and a half to the north, is a really cool city called Chichicastenango. Again, people pronounce it Chichi. My friend Lisa Honkel, who I'm really blessed to know, she works at UFM. She also has a home in Antigua. She lets me stay at her home in Antigua all the time. I'll get to that in a minute. But she invited me on a trip that she took some supporters of UFM that had come in from outside Guatemala, mostly from the US. She took them on a tour around the country, and one of the stops, and she invited me to come with them, and one of the stops was at Chichi, and we spent a day there. This is like the most iconic Mayan city. It's a small city. Like 98% of the people that live there are of Mayan descent. They still carry on all the traditions and the customs. We were there on a Sunday, and there was this massive Sunday flea market. I mean, crazy. And we were like in COVID times, right? Very few people wearing masks in Chichicastenango, and the market was packed, and people are coming up to you, and it was, again, I still haven't released a video from that trip either, so that's coming to that little part. There were some cool like Mayan cemeteries, very colorful. That was my first real experience seeing those cemeteries, those colorful cemeteries. Massive one in Chichi. And so that was cool there. And, I'm trying to think, I've probably gone to some other places in Guatemala that aren't coming to my mind right now, but to think about all these amazing places I just traveled to. And you could go deeper. Even Lake Atitlan, like, I've gone to some certain villages, but there's still many villages around that lake I haven't been to. And like I said, I was there 6 or 7 times. So like Guatemala has so much. And it's, to me, one of the biggest things about Guatemala is that everything just seems in its natural environment. There's so much green. It rains about half the year there. Between about May and September is considered the rainy season. Now, I recommend people don't go travel there during that season if they can avoid it. But if you go there during that season, it's not too bad. Like, it rains for, really the mornings are still very beautiful and sunny, and it usually starts raining around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The difference between Guatemala afternoon rain and Florida afternoon rain is Florida is usually very quick, maybe 2 hours, very violent, very powerful. Guatemala can be violent and powerful in their storms, but typically that tapers off. But it'll rain, whenever it starts raining in the afternoon, it usually goes all the way through the evening and into the night. So you'll get 2 or 3 hours of rain, or you'll get maybe 6 or 8 hours of rain. But you still have a lot of the day where it's not raining. I just say, if you can avoid that time of day or that time of year, avoid it. But if you can't, it's not really that big of a deal. You deal with it. It's rain. You put a rain jacket on. You bring an umbrella, all that kind of stuff. And the thing is, the traffic in the rain, if you're on the roads, people really don't know how to drive in the rain, and everybody slows up. So that's another thing in the afternoons, that the rain really creates a lot of havoc. But one of the really amazing things I did do, and I did create some videos of this, is I hiked some volcanoes. Now, when I first visited Guatemala in 2019, I hiked the Pacaya volcano with my friend Kyle. And by the way, Kyle is responsible for all of this because he was living in Guatemala for about 8 or 9 months in 2019. I went down to visit him for 3 or 4 days, and I just fell in love with Guatemala. And that's when, just 2 years later, I came back to live there for a year. And I just saw how inexpensive things were, how cool everybody was, and how many great things there were to do. That when I got it in my mind that I needed to find a place that fit those things, I immediately thought of Guatemala. And Guatemala really grew on me during the entire year I lived there. But one of the reasons, so anyway, I get back, I hiked in 2021, I went on an amazing volcano hike with the Huicho and Charlie's tour company that's based right there in Antigua. They did a great job. We hiked both the Acatenango and Fuego volcanoes in the same day. I got to give a shout out to my friends Chad, Scott, and Chris. They came down from the U.S., from 3 different places in the U.S., 3 different states. And we hiked that thing, man, and it was crazy. Fuego is an active volcano, and I thought we were gonna die not because of the volcano, but there was a very active thunderstorm on the volcano while we were on it, and there's no covering, there's nowhere to go. It started hailing a little bit. I put together some videos of that, and I was just tired, right? We hiked up to Acatenango. That took like 4 hours. We're at like 12,000 feet elevation. Then we take about a 2-hour break. And then we hike over to Fuego. And that was about a 4-hour round trip. And it was exhausting. And again, hitting a thunderstorm with hail, and of course you're experiencing the volcano. But I'll tell you what, when you're on that fuego, on that ridge, kind of going up, not too close to the crater, but close enough that as you can get, you feel the power of the universe. You feel it. Because every 10 minutes that volcano is got a little eruption, and it's just an amazing feeling to know what's going on there. And then you go back to Acatenango and you sit at the base camp all night and you watch the lava flows just going down fuego, and it's really beautiful and just something you'll like. If you can hike, if you've got the energy and the strength and the stamina, and most people I think can do it. You just do it a little bit slower. Just being on Acatenango is enough. You can look at fuego and just observe it all night long. And so I went back with a few other friends, my friends Lance and Claire and Grant and Ray, and we went back I went with them in September later that year and just did Acatenango. And then I woke up early in the morning the next day from base camp and hiked a little extra up to the summit to see the summit pre-sunrise. So we got up there at like 5 in the morning, and it was that was really amazing. You feel like you're on top of the world. You're seeing all of Guatemala. You're seeing you're at 13,000 feet, and you're just it's freezing cold too. But it's an amazing view, and really, again, Guatemala is so connected to the land, and it's so connected to the universe in so many different ways, and to the power of the earth and the power of the universe. I saw some amazing things in the sky in Guatemala that it's just like this natural phenomena that goes on there in that part of the world. That's just really, now you can kind of see why the Maya, how they were so connected with nature and with the stars and the cosmos. And really, I think how people can feel more connected to God and to the universe and everything through nature, especially the nature that's going on in Guatemala. So those were a lot of the impact on me. And again, the climate and the land in Guatemala. Like I said, the land is abundant. I built a great friendship with a guy named Jake Denberg. If anybody lives in Guatemala, you know Jake's restaurant right there in La Estacion in Zone 10. But he also has Jake's Pizza and Burgers, or maybe it's Burgers and Pizza. I forget which way it goes. And that's in a couple locations. But I've had many conversations with Jake. He actually came and visited one of my classes and talked to my students about entrepreneurship and his life and career. He's from the United States originally. He's about 70 years old now. He told me, and he told my students, he said, Guatemala is the most prosperous country like I've ever lived in. And he was really talking about, for the most part, the land. He said, you could drop a seed on the land in Guatemala and things just grow. And he's like, that just doesn't happen in most places. So it's an abundant land. Of course, it's known for the best coffee in the world. And I'll give a shout out to my friends at San Patricio Coffee. San Patricio is located in Palencia, Guatemala. I built a great friendship with my friend Saul Reyes. He's the middle son of this wonderful family that runs this great coffee finca in Palencia, Guatemala. His father started it with his father's brothers about 25 years ago, and just an amazing story. His father was making $1 a day doing carpentry work when he was 18 years old. $1 a day. Him and his brothers got together, started doing some other things, started just buying little tiny plots of land, started putting it together, started growing some coffee. And they just pay so much attention to the land. I've toured this coffee farm like 3 or 4 times. I brought 2 group trips there. And just the detail that goes through bringing this wonderful coffee to our bodies is the process it goes through is just really amazing. And I think when you get to see it and experience it, you just really fall in love with coffee even more. And the coffee in Guatemala, it's the best coffee in the world. And San Patricio, they're ranked number 14th in the Guatemala Cup of Excellence. I told Saul and his family that we're gonna get them to number 1. So drink your San Patricio coffee. And his father, by the way, is the mayor of the town. He's been the mayor for 12 years or something like that. And he's just a wonderful man. I sat down with his father, Beto Reyes, on, I believe it was episode 108 of the Agents of Innovation podcast. It was either 107 or 108. I think it was 108. And guy's just awesome. Beto Reyes, he rocks. He's He's just been so impactful in that community beyond just the coffee. He's helped the community. They love him. The people there love him. And, so really, when it comes down to it, one of the things I really love about Guatemala is the people. And, I had over 25 friends come and visit me in Guatemala during the year I was there. Some of them came on my group trips. Some of them just came to visit and do some other travel with me around the country. Number one thing, everybody said, unprompted by me, when they were leaving, I said, sometimes I asked them, what was your favorite thing about Guatemala, or what was the thing that was most impactful? Sometimes they just volunteered this information. They all said, I loved traveling to like Atitlan or Tikal or Antigua and all that stuff. It was great. But they said the number one thing about Guatemala was the people. They said these were like the kindest, most generous, most hospitable people. I mean, you meet somebody like the Reyes family, you visit their home for the first time, and they tell you, this is your home. They don't just tell you, you're welcome into our home. They say, this is your home. Come anytime. This is your home. Wow. I mean, I was just blown away by that and by just the generosity. My friend Micah told me a story. The honesty of the Guatemalan people. There was a public bathroom in Zone 1 right near the cathedral and the Capitol, the plaza there. And he went in to use it, and I think, it was like one of those pay things, and it was like 5 quetzales. By the way, 5 quetzales is like less than $1. It's like 75 cents. So you had to pay the attendant at the bathroom, and he gave, it was 3 quetzales. He gave her 5 quetzales, right? Again, 3 quetzales is like 50 cents or less. It's like 40 cents. So he gives her 5 quetzales and just goes in, not expecting any change or anything. Didn't even wait for change, just went right in. He goes in, uses the bathroom, washes his hand. He walks out, and she's got his change there, 2 quetzales. And he was just blown away by that. And by the way, he didn't even tell me that right away. A little bit later at the end of the trip, he said, he told me that story, and he said, that was just really emblematic to me about how honest people are in this country. He's like, I would never experience this almost anywhere else. And anyway, the generosity and the food is incredible. The Guatemalan breakfasts are incredible. Basically, you get like scrambled eggs with this like black bean, kind of a refried black bean with plantains. Plantains for breakfast, people. I mean, I was just blown away. I loved it. Of course, you get the coffee. I made so many great friends in Guatemala. People just wanted to get to know me. They heard my story. They wanted to know my story. They invited me places. It was very easy to meet people in Guatemala. Part of that, might be connected to the university, but I did a lot of things outside of the university on my own that really just, helped me understand the country better and seeing the people and just meeting so many people. So I was very blessed with my time there. Again, the teaching was really cool to teach one and to be able to teach in a foreign country to, the best university in Guatemala was awesome. And then, of course, the travel, getting to see all those places I mentioned, getting to do it with friends of mine, getting to do it with people in Guatemala, getting to do it by bringing people on the Fearless Journeys group trips, and then just connecting with the people there. And again, the climate there, I talked about the land. It is the eternal spring in Guatemala. It is so beautiful. It is such cool weather. It's like in Fahrenheit, it's like in the 60s and 70s, like all year long. Maybe like might dip down to like the 50s at night, some parts of the year. Get up maybe to the 80s in the warmer parts of the year during the day. But most days and nights are like 60s and 70s, and it's just perfect. Probably why I started smoking a lot more cigars sitting outside, because I just love sitting outside and smoking a cigar when the weather is like that. It is just awesome. So Guatemala truly is the eternal spring. And so between the people and the places and the coffee and the land and the climate and the friendships that I made there and the friendships of people that came to visit me that were deepened through our travel together, my experience in Guatemala is something that has impacted me forever. And I'm going to continue going back to Guatemala, every year. Maybe I'll actually go and teach there again at UFM. I would love to do that. They've offered me the opportunity to do that when I want to come back. If I could be there a month every year, I would do that. That would be my life goal, to be there a month every year. Longer than that, I don't know. But I do know that I've made so many friends. It's such a quick, short flight from Florida, about 2.5 hour flight from Florida. And so I know I can get there anytime, usually pretty cheap flights as well. And it's not really expensive to travel to, and the food is great, and the people are great. It's like the weather is great, and it's hard, and there's just so much more adventures to be had in Guatemala. So I want to tell you, Guats Up. If you haven't been to Guatemala, Guats Up. Guats Up. Why haven't you been? Come on one of our Fearless Journeys group trip. I will show you the country. I will introduce you to the people. You will eat the food. You will drink their beers and their wines and their Zacapa rums, and you will just enjoy all the adventures. So I encourage you to come on one of the Fearless Journeys group trips. If you're already in Guatemala, connect with me. Right here on this YouTube channel, you can subscribe to my videos. I got a lot more content coming. I just wanted to give you this update. Oh yeah, where am I? I came back to Florida, at the end of February, went back to Guatemala in April to run another group trip, and then I came back to Florida in about mid-April. And I've been living and working from South Florida since about mid-April. But at this moment, at the end of June, I just got here to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I love the travel life so much that I decided, why not go spend a month somewhere that I really like in the United States, where I can kind of get some writing done and I can get some video content production done. And Chattanooga has the highest, the fastest high-speed internet in the world. It really does. And so, I'm going to be producing a lot more video content. That's why I promise you regular updates on YouTube. I'll say at least once a week. You're going to see a video for me on YouTube for, I think, many months ahead. I hope so. That's my promise. That's my goal. And so YouTube, like this video if you can, share it if you can, subscribe if you can. That will help me to really be incentivized to go even further. And if you want to support this content, you can do that at my Patreon channel, Patreon link at patreon.com/fearlessjourneys. Patreon.com/fearlessjourneys, and I'll put that on the screen here and also in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. For those of you who haven't seen me in a while, I just wanted to say, Guats Up.